Evening everybody, Whiskey Doc here. Gonna try to tackle one of the big questions that I get asked, which is the best glass to use to drink whiskey? The short answer is whatever gets the liquid from the bottle to your face, that's the best glass to use. A little more complicated than that. What I like to do is I like to go over the most common ones that we see and the ones we use, talk about the design of them, why they're shaped like they are, and be able to give you a little help on what you're going to use for whatever whiskey you like to drink. The first one I'm going to hit is the Copita glass, or the sherry nosing glass, or called the dock glass. These were used in the 17th, 18th century on the dockyards as product was coming in. They'd be able to taste the wares. Now, the design is very straightforward. We have a tulip-shaped glass, lower end, of course, to hold the liquid, the whiskey, and then tapering sides so that as we get evaporation of the whiskey, it'll concentrate the aromas to your nose for the nosing. Stemmed, the nice thing about stemming these glasses is that you don't warm up the whiskey unless you wanted to. A great little glass. You see these used a lot by Richard Patterson if you've been in one of his master classes or seen him on the videos. He likes using these styles of glasses. I like them. It's got great crystal through which you can see the color of a whiskey that you're tasting as well. I can't find these for less than 18 bucks Canadian, so I don't stock a lot of these because I do break them time to time and I don't like to lose them. But a great glass, good glass to use. Another one you might see less often is the tulip glass or the cognac glass. Now, if you look at the shape of the cognac glass versus the Copita glass, you'll see that we still have the lower bowl, the reservoir for the whiskey. We have the tapering of the sides to concentrate the aromas to your nose, and this has got a little flare at the end. So, of course, once you swirl and release those aromas, you can get your nose in there. If you look at the size of it, I think that's like 8 or 10 ounces versus 6 of the Copita glass. I like using this glass if I'm trying to profile a very light whiskey, something that doesn't have a lot of robustness to it. I'm trying to pick those little characters out of it because I can get a little more evaporation at the top to get into my nose. Super expensive in Canada. I can't find any of these cheap. I only have one of these left, so I don't use it very often. Super easy to break, but once again, a very nice glass for the purpose that you want to use it for. The next glass is the Highland tasting glass. Now, once again, you see a common idea of the shapes of these things. You have a lower bowl that's wide for the whiskey, and then you have the tapering sides to concentrate the aromas to your nose. And this one, of course, has a stem, so you don't heat it up unless you want to. I kind of like this glass for a different reason. I'm wondering if it's called a Highland glass because it's so wide at the bottom. There's going to be a lot of surface area for those lighter Highland whiskeys you'll see. To get a little more evaporation up into your nose. Another thing I like about this is that if I want to see how something's going to change with temperature, there's a lot of surface area to get it warmed up in your hand. What I don't really like about it is that it's so thick at the bottom, there's a lot of distortion when you look through it, so you're not going to get a great color profile of a whiskey. You might not see these around much, but they are all over the place at the bed and bath stores. So you're going to see these, in a box, 2 for like 30 bucks or whatever at Bed Bath & Beyond. Not a bad glass, and it's actually pretty tough. It doesn't break that easily. The next one up is, of course, the workhorse, the Glencairn. I think these have been around since 2000 or 2001, developed by the Glencairn company. I think in conjunction with a bunch of master distillers or master blenders in Scotland. The Glencairn Crystal Company is pretty cool making these. Once again, the same design. You've got the wide bowl for the whiskey. You've got the tapering to bring the aromas to your nose. We got a little bit of a thicker bottom here. Once again, you can protect the whiskey from getting warm unless you want to get it warm. Great see-through on the glass so that you can see the color of the whiskey. These you see all the time, usually 8 or 9 bucks Canadian, I guess. You can buy these by the dozen on Amazon. Great one. You can basically use this for any type of whiskey. It's going to work for you. And we stock these by the dozen for sure. The next one you're going to see is the low bar of the tumbler glass. Straight up and down, you're going to find this at every bar. It's got lots of room for your whiskey, a couple ounces in there, lots of room for ice, and of course lots of room for the coolest trend these days, which is the big block of ice to go in to kind of cool down your whiskey without watering it down too much. I used to use this quite a bit for Canadian whiskey, and I don't really know why. I think it's just habit more than anything else. Maybe because I can get my nose straight into it and try to get some of the lighter characters out of Canadian whiskeys, which tend to be, you know, overall lighter than Scotch whiskey or what have you. Not a bad one to use. I don't use these much anymore unless it's a warm day. I need a cool drink and there's lots of room for ice to go into whatever I'm drinking. What I normally use now for a Canadian whiskey is the Canadian whiskey glass. Can you see, you know, a trend here for, you know, what designers are doing? Once again, you've got the lower bowl, which is for the whiskey, and lots of room for evaporation. You've got the tapering to the nose, and of course, lots of room for ice if you want to put ice in there. This is a great glass. I like this glass a lot, and it's heavy. You know, it's got a thick bottom to it. I've dropped this a couple of times on the other ones I have, and I didn't break them, thank God. And it just feels Canadian. Hey, let's go play on ice and chase around frozen rubber with sticks. I like this glass, and I use that quite a bit. The big one these days is the Norland glass. Now, this was gifted to me. I couldn't decide whether or not I want to go out and buy two of these for like 50 or 60 bucks Canadian. Because I like my Glencairn, I like my Copita glass. But I like the science behind it. It's really kind of cool. What you can't see from this one, which is flat black, is that it's double walled. It's like a thermos. And the inside has been scientifically designed to create a standing wave when you swirl your whiskey. And the inside taper that's there is designed to concentrate the aromas of the whiskey to your nose and dissipate the alcohol to the side so you can actually kind of avoid it. It's cool science. I don't honestly know if it works or not. It probably does. What I don't like about these glasses is two things. A, it's very light. If you can feel that, it feels like it's going to break if you squeeze it. And the other thing is, you really can't get a color profile on these. I have seen the clear glass ones, and still there's a little distortion there. But it's actually fun to drink out of these because you can drink without really tipping your head or losing sight of the person that you're drinking with. Really cool science. I like them. It's a fun thing to bring out for conversations. I do use it from time to time. I guess the big thing is, if you're trying to figure out what you're smelling in a whiskey, then you're going to have a glass that's going to bring that flavor to your nose. And a lot of times you're going to go with something with a taper to it. So a Glencairn's going to work, a Highland's going to work, you know, a Cognac or a Copita's going to work. Whatever works for you, whatever you're comfortable using, use it. You know, I like this and I like this because that's the ones I go to all the time. Whatever works for you, drink it your way. There's no wrong answers. This is the Whiskey Doc.